Hello everyone and welcome. This is a follow-up video to my previous video about Samus and the Federation troopers. I have more to say that couldn't really fit into that video without bloating it, so here we are. First things first, thank you for the overwhelmingly positive response. I went into it expecting the worst and was pleasantly surprised. I'm glad people could resonate and add on to my thoughts with their own. Had an absolute blast reading your opinions, perspectives, and theories. Last time I focused mainly on Samus' relationship with Tokabi, looking at interactions, body language, and dialogue in order to deepen our understanding of both. He understands Samus and what she's been through, and over time she lets her guard down around him. Most people know Samus the bounty hunter, but very few know Samus the person. It's definitely some of the best Prime 4 has to offer, and I enjoy it a lot. So with that out of the way, I want to do some more character analysis. And, in order to not make these videos too long as I yap too much, I think I'll focus on one character at a time. I briefly touched on Nora Armstrong last time, and today I'd like to expand on that. Listen, I can admit that I'm an Armstrong enjoyer. I thought she was great from moment one. Her introductory cutscenes are fun, wholesome, and sweet. They establish a dynamic where Nora is very outgoing, enthusiastic, and animated, contradicted with Samus' stoic, calm, and sometimes rather confused demeanor. She doesn't know what to do with herself or Nora in most scenarios, and I think that's a lovely bit of characterization. In some circles, I've heard people say that they should have made Nora shy at first because she admires Samus so much. However, I don't think that would have made sense with her character, and I think it's far more endearing that she's unable to keep her enthusiasm in check. Nora just isn't a shy person, nor is she afraid to be herself. She's brash and often needs to be reined in by those around her. I think her characterization is fine as is. Something I forgot to mention in my previous video that people kindly reminded me of is that Nora isn't actually the first known fangirl Samus has. In Metroid Prime 2, in the wreckage of GFS Tier, we can find a Federation Marine, Specialist M. Angseth, who was the sole female member on the squad. She was stuck on monitor duty and laments that she can't be in the action like her idol, Samus Aran. Angseth would also gush about Samus to her fellow Marines, much to their chagrin. One Marine actually compares Samus to something like Santa Claus, which really speaks to how much of a living legend Samus was at the time. She's not in the public eye very often, so his perspective does make sense. Anyway, all this to say, Angseth walks and Nora could run. There's a foundation here that's being expanded upon in Prime 4.
It is an honor to finally meet you, Samus. Aran. Samus Aran. If there's any way to get inside the device and spin it up. Samus, it's really you. I can't believe it. Samus. Sarge, look! She's doing morph ball.
Yeah, I see it. Calm down.
Oh, I wish my suit could do that.
So far we only have 2 female troopers for reference at the moment, and both of them have Samus as their role model. Not any of their other fellow troopers, but Samus Aran specifically. Angseth was the only woman on her squad, and Armstrong could possibly be in a similar situation, but we don't know enough yet. A big difference is that Armstrong was out there in the field, but Angseth was stuck with a desk job, essentially. Hi, Speedy. Yes, hi. Despite her being a sharpshooter, she wasn't allowed to use those skills. Something I noticed in the prologue after repeat playthroughs is that the ratio between male and female soldiers is pretty much even. And I think it's due to Samus' accomplishments in Prime 3, defeating the Face-On Menace with the Federation's help. A feat the public is very well aware of and grateful for. So while it wasn't her goal, Samus definitely impacted those around her. Nora Armstrong isn't just in this game to fill out the cast of characters. She's here for world-building purposes, showing that the Federation's military structure has changed since the previous game. At least, that's how I see it.
Greetings, Hunter. Stop. Good hunting, Samus.
I know Flare Pool is one of the community's least favorite areas, but it's where things start to get really interesting in my opinion. At least, from Samus' perspective. When she finds Duke, she helps him out and receives a call from Nora. Samus turns around immediately and listens very intently to the conversation. She is concerned. Duke says they need to find her, and I expected Samus to nod as affirmation, like she usually does. But no, she turns around and we cut to gameplay. She doesn't have time for pleasantries.
That doesn't sound good. We need to find Armstrong.
It's subtle as usual, but if saving someone's life is within Samus's power, she will do it. Also, definitely the first sign that she might care a bit more about Nora than the others. Like, she's always helped out the other troopers, but this part of the game felt more urgent than before, as if Samus herself wants to make sure she gets there in time, sort of deal.
A little extra padding never hurts. Hey.
They eventually find a map and Samus points to where she wants to go. And for a moment, there is a clash between Mission and Samus's personal feelings. She wants to get the teleporter key, but she also wants to save Nora. Fortunately, she happens to be on the way of the objective, so there's no conflict between Mission and personal feelings. However, the narrative seeds have been planted to flourish later on in the story. This time, Samus can successfully save someone and do the mission without much hassle. When they get there, Nora probably isn't what Samus expected. She's taken off guard, yes, but she doesn't seem to mind much. She certainly doesn't stop Miles from being excited earlier in the story, so why start now? I got the impression Duke assumes Samus wouldn't be okay with the way Nora behaves.
It's amazing. I love it. I love it so
Private.
much. Yes, sir. Right, sorry, sir. Private First Class Nora Armstrong. It's an honor to meet you, Samus.
Thank you.
This is where you come in, Samus. But, you know, I am here if you need anything.
Yes, Samus can handle it.
Yes, sir.
I need you with me. Patrolling.
Yes, sir.
But Samus gives a nod to her before she goes to deactivate the clamp. Coming right after Duke has reprimanded Nora twice, I've read this as, "Don't worry," or "It's alright," reassuring her that it's fine. When they're taking the tram, Samus also indulges Nora, answering her questions and such. I think she might be the first person to directly ask about Samus's mission too, which is interesting.
So, Samus, what brought you to this facility anyway? Some super secret mission? Whoa. What are these? Some kind of keys? Is this how we get home? Oh, we'd love to help you find them.
We. Private.
Sarge?
Well, if it's the only way off this rock. All right, I'm in. Keep your head on a swivel, kid. Who knows what else is out there?
Copy that, Sarge.
And she doesn't seem to mind that Nora is standing right next to her either. Which might not sound like much at first glance, but remember that Samus keeps the troopers at arm's length most of the time. It takes her quite some time to close the gap with Tokabi, for instance. With Nora is pretty instant, and I just want to give attention to it. During the escape sequence, Samus realizes that the pod has to be activated from the outside and informs Duke. Nora hasn't caught on yet and just follows orders. Samus, being her selfless self, would of course save someone else at her own potential expense. What I think is interesting here is the camera angles. Samus touches the dial, looks at Nora, turns it, and guesses back again. Then we see the door close from Nora's point of view, followed by Samus's point of view. And her eyes linger on the pod until she's sure they made it out. I think it's safe to say that a lot is going through Samus's mind at this moment. She's clearly worried about the trooper's safety, but I feel like there's something else going on as well. I could be wrong, but it could be a callback to Metroid Other M. Spoilers for that game if you haven't played it yet. I'm talking about the scene where Adam sacrifices himself to eliminate the Metroid threat. I am assuming that Other M has already happened at this point in the timeline, considering Prime 4 specifically takes place after Super but before Fusion. In the flare pool scenario, Samus is now on the other side of that. She's the one pressing the eject button in a place that's going to explode in minutes. The way Nora acts also mirrors how Samus acted back then too. So that's why I think Samus seems hesitant and a bit lost in thought during the escape sequence. God, I love reading far into things I care about.
Whoa. This place is huge. Hello? Echo!
I mentioned the Great Minds extremely briefly last time, so let me actually talk about it this time. As someone who spent a lot of time with the Federation troopers, this section was extremely tense, and honestly, kind of felt like a horror movie on my first go. Granted, I've experienced enough books, movies, and games to know that nobody's going to die here. The cliche writes itself. However, Samus doesn't know that. To her, these are very traumatic experiences. Going through this section, my thoughts was with Samus and how she must have been feeling during the descent. So I looked at the event and interaction that occur from her perspective. Also, I do not think it's a coincidence that Nora is the one Samus spends the most time with in the mine. Remember how I compared the flare pool escape sequence to Adam's sacrifice in Other M? When Duke plugs the hole so Samus and Nora can continue descending, it happens again. Except this time the roles have been switched up. Nora is now in Samus' shoes while Duke plays the role of Adam. And just like Samus back then, Nora is deeply upset, but she still moves forward.
Wait! No!
See you on the other side, kid!
Sarge! Do you read me? Sarge!
Samus looks concerned, and she has good reason to be. She knows exactly how it feels to be in this situation, and Nora is just putting on a brave face. As we see further down into the mine. She's worried about Duke's survival, and she's also deathly afraid of being alone. I wish Samus had done more, like a hand on the shoulder or something to that effect. Just for a crumb of assurance in these trying times. Her presence helps, but she's a recent acquaintance and not a longtime friend like Duke is. Nora later confirms how Samus helped her cope, especially after they got separated.
When I was alone in the mines, I didn't think I was gonna make it. Then I remembered. You've been fighting by yourself all these years. You're amazing.
Further down, Nora hears what I think is a brief intermission of a calm, possibly Duke's, and that sends her over the edge. She manages to compose herself, and from that moment on, she's acting a little bit more like her usual self.
No, I've got to get a hold of myself. Knuckle up. I won't quit. Sarge wouldn't let me. We can do this. We need to find our way down. Find something useful?
As other people have already pointed out, Nora's sacrifice is a parallel to Samus saving Duke and Nora in Flare Pool. It's her turn to help Samus now. Unfortunately, that means Samus is once again in the position of being left behind while someone she cares about presumably goes to die. I think it's safe to say that this is the most distressed we see Samus in Metroid Prime 4. Her stoic, unflappable demeanor cracks when Nora's life is in danger. I was expecting Samus to have this response, and I'm happy they went the full mile. It contrasts very strongly with her regular attitude, and it really sells how distressed she actually is. I really wish this moment had Samus' eyes visible, but it is what it is. It worked for me. I felt really bad for Samus in this moment. I didn't cry or anything, but man, they really put her in situations like this repeatedly when she's already been through so much. She clearly cares for Nora in particular too, so it must have been awful.
Find that key, Samus. I'll keep them occupied. It has been an honor serving with you.
It is unfortunate I could not be of assistance during that battle.
View throws her across the gap and she wants to help him fight the Grievers despite being out of range. But there's not much she can do from there. She looks so defeated, hearing another comrade expressing gratitude while being overrun by Grievers. I can imagine it has to sting. Hurt even.
I am glad I could be of service to you today, Samus.
As I said earlier, Nora and Duke surviving did not surprise me, but I was still happy to see them. It does surprise Samus though, and she seems glad that they're alive. Again, I wish she would have emoted a bit more here, but we take what we can get.
Hey there, stranger. You didn't think we were dead, did you? Takes more than a couple Grievers to bring us down.
Try a couple hundred. You did good, kid. All that training paid off.
Thank you, sir. Me? I thought you were up top. What happened to your arm?
Samus required assistance, but I was attacked by Grievers. I regret I could not be more helpful. My body sustained heavy damage.
We get what we came for.
So, I don't think the Mines is as bad as people say it is. It just happens to be a linear action set piece when people wanted something different. As I said, it felt like a horror movie, which was probably the experience they were going for. I remember going on the internet and finding out that liking this section was an unpopular opinion. You see, I spent a lot of time on my first playthrough getting to know all of my companions, seeing most of their conversation in the base camp, to the point where I'd see repeats. So when I got to the Mines section, and later the end of the game, I did feel a lot for these characters, including Samus. I cared for these people, and it's come to my understanding that a lot of people didn't. I've even seen people celebrate when the Miles gets shot by Salix at the end, and yeah. Wow. Definitely don't think he deserved that. Anyway, tangent aside, I think that's it for now. I enjoy Nora and Samus' relationship dynamic a lot. The same way I enjoy Samus and Tokabi's. Again, she's one of my favorite characters in the game, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about her at length. Before I start rambling, thanks for watching if you made it this far, and take care.